Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Show. I'm Susanne, this is Jeremy, and we're here with you again this week to talk about the journey of faith and what that's kind of looked like for us as a couple, what that's looked like for us as our family, maybe even individually. And we just want to take a couple minutes and just share with you what that has meant to us in our marriage and personally as well.
Yeah, the journey of faith is something that we talk about a lot, and particularly in kind of Christian world, we talk about the journey of faith, and we say that phrase. What that doesn't mean is that we are walking the path of life trying to figure out faith. That's not what we're talking about. It's not a journey of discovery or trying to figure out what we believe about God or spirituality. Really, the journey of faith, I think properly understood from a biblical context, is knowing that in life, there is a journey, there's a starting point, there's an ending point. We're going along the path of life, that's the journey. And along the way, we have to have faith or confidence in God. We can't see all of the twists and turns, all of the ups and downs. And as Christians, we're growing in our relationship with Him. We're growing in our understanding of Him. We're growing in our understanding of what He wants us to do. And we're trusting Him. That's the journey of faith. And that's the way we go from point A to whatever point B is off in the future. That's how we persevere and continue when things get difficult. It's a journey, but it's a journey of faith. The faith journey, or the faith part, is putting our confidence in God. And so when we understand that as individuals, it's very helpful. But when we are in a relationship as a married couple, or we're in a marriage relationship, or we're in that familial family relationship, we're in a relationship where we're traveling the journey of life with other people, we need to understand principally how to also travel the journey of faith with other people. Not all other people, because not everyone will travel with you, but in these close relationships, again, husband and wife, with your kids, if they're still at home, how do we travel the journey of faith together? And that is wonderful. It can be certainly wonderful and encouraging and blessed, but it can also be very, very difficult, because how we view relationship with God, how we view all of those things may be different. And we're on our own journey of faith, so to speak. We're trying to grow and learn in that, and then coming together. And so it's so critical. People that do this well do it really well. People that don't really, really struggle. And we wanted to just spend some time talking about that and kind of breaking that down. So, the journey of faith.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting. I heard someone the other day tell me, we were kind of talking a little bit about this, and she said that in their marriage, that it was really difficult to have a close relationship with God, because her and her husband didn't have together a spiritual, like a connection, like a relationship with God. So they together have not kind of read their Bible together or prayed together or talked about those kinds of things together. And so it was really difficult for her to have a relationship with God personally.
Yeah.
So she is someone that has accepted Christ and all those things, but over the years, that's not been maybe something that her and her husband have had together. And so she said it was kind of, she felt like her relationship with God was put on hold. And I think that's almost like backwards of how it should be.
Sure.
And I feel like when you talk about people that get this right, it's getting the aspect of it right, that what comes first is your personal relationship with God. And when that is right, then that's going to help you in your relationships, and that can only make your marriage stronger, and it's going to help your family relationships be stronger. But it's really falling back on that personal relationship that you have with God and making sure that that's right. Not that your relationship with God is dependent on how well things are with other people.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that was interesting. It really made me think about kind of that aspect of it, is people that get this right are the ones making sure that their personal relationship with God is right.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, I think, is that it's not about getting your spouse or your children necessarily to do what you want them to do. Mm-hmm. It's about being right in your own relationship with God. And if that's the case, we talk about the triangle all the time. As a husband grows closer to God and a wife grows closer to God, if it's a triangle, they're growing closer to God, they're also growing closer to each other. So it really does begin with, how is my relationship with God? Mm-hmm. How am I doing? Am I reading my Bible? Am I praying? Am I growing in that? And if so, then the journey of faith together, it really can be together. It begins there. Mm-hmm. And I think, kind of backing off, taking a step back from that, there is a foundation, and the foundation is a personal relationship with Christ. So when we're talking about a journey of faith, it's not just, are we two spiritual people, or do we both have a concern for God and, kind of the bigger things of the universe? It is very much about understanding that Jesus is God, that he died on the cross for our sin. He paid the price for our sin because we needed him to. He did that. He was the only one that could. He was buried or placed in a tomb. He rose again because he's God, and he makes the forgiveness of sins possible to those who will put their faith and their trust in him. That's the foundation for all of it. And so when we talk about journeying together, that has to be the starting point. And I think sometimes the journey doesn't take place because that's not the same. We have different ideas about what faith means. And, even as we have this discussion, how do you talk to people who, and I know, as we deal with different people, a wife may say, I believe that. I believe Jesus died for me, that he rose again, that he is my Savior. I want to please him. I'm trying to grow in that, but my spouse doesn't. What advice do you give to someone, on this side of that journey of faith? How do you help them see that right?
I think that's really challenging, and that's kind of how it was in this conversation that I was having, is that how can I move forward in my relationship with God and growing that when, my husband is not, or, my wife, I guess, whatever the case is not, wanting to either have a relationship with Christ or move forward, at all in that way. How do I do that by myself? And I think that's a really difficult position to be in. And I think it's just remembering that is, that your marriage relationship has priority in your life, and you need to do, what's helpful in that relationship. But also, your relationship with God is the one that will help you to respond correctly and will help you to even know how to have conversations and how to, if your spouse is maybe not moving forward in that way, the same way as you are, as you continue to grow and as you continue to develop that relationship. And this is where I've encouraged women specifically in this area, is that it is difficult. It is, especially if the spouse is not supportive. Sometimes they're like not supportive at all. Sometimes they're like, that's fine, that's your thing. You can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
I'm okay with that. And so whatever the situation is that relationship with God, however you need to, grow that, is going to be what's going to help you to know how to respond and to know how to, even witness to that person. You think of the verse in the Bible that talks about being able to witness to someone without even saying anything, right? Just by your actions.
Sure.
And so even just behaving in such a way that person can look at you and be like, oh, wow, they're like not getting upset with me right now, or they're responding, in this way when they maybe shouldn't. Right. And so that's kind of how I've given encouragement in the past, is just to remember that when your relationship with God is strong, it is going to still help you have a strong marriage, even if that person is not, doesn't have that relationship or is not really wanting to have anything to do with it. It's still going to help you be the spouse that you're supposed to be, and to still help that relationship to grow. Yeah,
and we've talked about this before. It's be a good Christian. Don't try to have a good marriage, but be a good Christian. Be what God wants you to be. So when we talk about a journey of faith, again, it's two people journeying together on that solid foundation of a relationship with God through Christ. So let's take what we just said and set that aside. That's a different conversation. That's how can I be a good testimony to the person I'm married to? How can I be a Christian first and allow God to work through me to influence someone else? But let's assume that we do have that foundation. Now, it may be that you're Christians before you met, and you've always had that as a part of your relationship. Many people accept Christ around the same time or near the same time after they've been married for many years. Whatever the case, we have that foundation. That's right. But we want to grow in that together and go forward in that together. What are some things that are helpful in journeying, kind of the faith path or the faith life together?
Just like we already mentioned, I think what's really important is making sure that you have a right relationship with God, and that you're doing your, reading your Bible and praying and personally asking God to speak to you and help you to be the person that you're supposed to be. I would say that would be the first thing. Yeah.
So personal devotion time, personal commitment to God.
Right. And personal service. I think it's really good for each person personally to have a way that they serve that is using the gifts that God gave them specifically.
Sure.
I think that if you have that common foundation, like we said, of both people in the relationship having a relationship with Christ and wanting to move forward together in that way, there is, I believe, a specific gifts that God gives you as a couple and as a family that you specifically are gifted to do in the way that you can witness to other people or help other people
that couple
as a couple
collectively
together.
and the family collectively.
Yes, but I do feel like it's important for a relationship for each person individually to be serving and ministering in the specific way that God has gifted them individually. Because first as Christians, that's important to do. But I personally feel like that helps you to grow personally as a Christian and to grow in your relationship with God as well, as to be serving personally. Yeah. So personally, doing your Bible reading and having your devotion time, and also serving personally in that way as well. I think there's a lot of things that you and I do together. One of the things that I do personally is I do like to serve in the nursery at our church, and that's something that I like to do. I enjoy doing that.
I don't do that so much. No.
And I enjoy helping in that ministry. I like to be with the kids. I think it's fun to be with the 2-year-olds. They always crack me up, and I don't know. I like serving there, and so that's not something that we do together. But that is something that I really enjoy to do, and just to know that I'm helping maybe a couple be able to sit in church that
right
when someone else is watching their child, and so I do really enjoy doing that, and I feel like that I love being with kids, and that's maybe something that God has gifted me with, and so I'm using that to serve in that way. Even though we're not doing that together, that's the way that I can serve by myself. Yeah. And so I do feel like that's very important, is to have your personal, things that you are doing because of your relationship with
Christ, you're a Christian,
that you're doing it personally. Yeah. And so I do feel like that really helps a relationship. And when we're talking about a marriage relationship,
right,
to grow, because you're growing individually, and that's only going to help you to be more the person that you're supposed to be, right, for that relationship. But then as a couple, serving together, I think is really important, and having things that you do maybe for others together, or, whatever your gifts, God has gifted each person individually, but I feel like as a couple as well, bringing those strengths together and bringing those gifts together, there's something that every married Christian couple can do together to serve, whatever that looks like. And so I think that's really important too. And then just having together time where you're talking about the things of the Bible, or asking questions, or, I feel like you're a lot smarter than me about a lot of Bible things. So
I'm not a lot smarter than you. I appreciate you saying that, but thank you.
So I ask
but it's just
a lot of questions like, hey, what do you think about this? Or I read this. What does that mean? And we talk about that. And so I think it's really important to have those things that you do together is reading the Bible, praying together, talking about those things, going to church together, serving together. Not just doing it by yourself, but then having some things that you are doing together as well.
Yeah, that's good. I think another thing that's helpful when we talk about the journey of faith, or the faith journey of life, is being on the same page when it comes to not just serving in the context of the church, but using the resources that God gives to us. Mm-hmm. So, financial resources, time resources, the physical things that we can do. It's coming together and understanding together that God has given us these resources to enjoy, certainly, and there are things that we enjoy, and we're thankful for that. But more than that, He's given those to us to be of service to Him. So spending time together talking about our finances and what we're going to do, how we're going to support our church financially. There are some missionaries that just you and I support separate from our church. We support missionaries at church too, but we have friends that we support separate from that, and things that we give to and things that we do, and we decide that together. And that's part of, I believe, the faith journey that allows us to, well, by faith, we're going to do this together, and we're on the same page there. It's not that I think we should do it or that you think we should do it. It's that we spent time together deciding how are we going to use these resources in a way that will please God.
Yeah. And it's, when you say resources, I kind of think too of like, our home, and we haven't always been very good at this, but I feel like we kind of go in phases, just having people over, or even just using, having time. And it's not so much about, the things, like you said, giving to our church or missionaries. And I also feel like resources are, like you said, your time, and even our home, having people in our home, and or maybe cooking a meal, or if you're making something make something extra to give to someone else, or, just there's so many things when it comes to resources that we can agree on that we should do, a way that we can minister to people using all of those things.
Yeah, that's good. I think another thing, and we kind of go through phases on this too, whether it's studies together or the discipleship things that we've done with our kids and done together. But there are times for sure, seasons of life where that becomes more pressing than others. If you're trying to make a major decision, you're trying to figure out how to deal with something that you're uncertain of. It's coming together in prayer and Bible study. And, I know many, many couples that pray every single day at the same time together. Even when traveling, they'll call and spend time in prayer together. Really, that's a great opportunity to say we're on this journey of faith together. And for us, we do pray together, not on schedule every day, but we spend time in prayer together, and particularly around decisions or around those seasons of life where we know we really need an answer from God about this thing. And coming together in that way, again, it's pleasing to God. It's what we should do. We could pray separately, but there's something special or unique about coming together and saying, God, we need you to give us the same heart on this and the same clear mind on this and the same discretion even about how exactly to handle these situations. And so coming together in Bible study and prayer and those spiritual exercises is very important as well.
Yeah. We have been doing a small group in our house for our church. And that's something that I felt like most recently, we came into agreement on that, that we should, that's something that maybe we can do together. And so that's something that has been, I don't know, I've just really enjoyed doing that, and just the way that we've been going through the book of Ephesians. It's been, and it's just been so good. And I feel like it's allowed us to have some conversations too. And so that's been something that I think has been really, really neat to be able to do in our house as well.
Right. I think, so along the way, so we talk about the foundation and we talk about some of the things that we can do and we need to do them together. And it's really just asking God to give us one mind and one heart on so many of these things. But we are individuals. And so we can go back to Genesis 2. It tells us that we are one flesh. And we could talk all day about that, what that means. But what it doesn't mean is that we have one mind necessarily. We have different ways of looking at things and we respond to things differently. And again, we don't get this right all the time. And I won't pretend that we do. But in order to move forward, there has to be also, on the other side of all of these things, there has to be grace extended. Sometimes we do it right. Sometimes we don't. And, that's the second thing is forgiveness. And but grace, it's understanding we are human and maybe we don't move at the same pace. Maybe we don't move at the same speed. Maybe we can't lift the same load on the journey. And it's understanding that we need to extend grace to each other. We all want grace to be extended to us. We just have a really hard time extending it to others. But that is critical in a marriage, particularly, even with kids, in a relationship that's going to move forward together is grace.
That's a really good word for it. Just today, one of our daughters was asking me if we ever fight. Like,
she was asking you that?
She was asking me, she's like, do you guys ever fight? Which I was
wow.
like,
well, good. I'm glad she asked.
That's nice. I know. She's like, have you and Dad ever fought? I'm like, oh, I'm glad you're asking that question. And so I said, yeah, we have. She's like, really? And I said, yeah, we have. I said, we haven't fought, like fought, but there have things that we've just been in disagreement over.
It's been a while since you've thrown anything at me.
But it made me start thinking that I think that sometimes, disagreements or major arguments, or when I think about, things that we've been through, has maybe come from maybe unmet expectations, or maybe I don't always view you maybe as like a person, because I expect you to be a certain way. You know what I mean? Like I expect you to be, right. I do view you as a person, but like maybe just like you should be this way.
Right.
And so sometimes when you maybe don't meet that expectation, or I think like, well, he should do those things, when I'm like, why am I expecting this of him? Because it's like impossible to expect this person to be this way all of the time. That's not very gracious. It's not very, extending of that or being, forgiving. If I'm expecting my spouse to be perfect all of the time and to meet all of my expectations and to know what I'm thinking. Yeah. And I think a lot of major disagreements that we've had have come from that is I can speak for myself, I don't know about you, of not extending that grace. And I think that's just a really good word for it. It's just to consider the other person, be gracious towards them, their needs, and what you expect of them. Because a lot of times that it just does come from that. It's just us not being gracious enough, not being understanding enough. And that's, when she asked me that, it just made me start thinking about that today.
And it is being considerate of the other person. I think that's where I struggle in this area is I feel like I can move so fast, I can do so much, and if other people aren't moving at the same pace or doing the same thing, I have a hard time with that. Well, that's grace that says, eventually I'm going to fall down too, and I'm going to need someone to help me get back up. But it also means we don't all move at the same pace at the same time, and we struggle at different times, and we need to be gracious, understanding it is a journey of faith together. It's not me, it's not you, it's not one pulling the other one. Encouraging certainly and lifting, but there needs to be grace extended, and I think it's very important on the, as we move forward together. But the other part of that, the other side of that, perhaps, is forgiveness. We talk about even our relationship with God. We're told in several places we need to pray for grace and mercy. We need to pray for, or we need to understand grace and mercy. They're two different things. One is extending what someone probably doesn't deserve. The other is withholding what they do. One is I'm going to let you be who you are, understanding that you are human, as we just talked about. But the other one is being forgiving, is not holding on. The Bible talks a lot about this. 1 Corinthians 13, Ephesians 4:32 talks about being kind and forgiving. But forgiving, it's not keeping that person, the person that I'm married to, or my kids, or these people I'm close to, not keeping them beholden to me because of something they did. It's releasing that so they can either be dealt with by God or be reconciled to God. They can deal with God in that sense. They can be reconciled to me as well. Reconciliation is a part of that. But forgiveness, if we hang on to things, and so many people do. We were just talking with some friends this week, and they mentioned they have friends. I don't know the friends. They have friends that something happened in their family, and because of that, there's been a split in the family. Members of the family haven't spoken for years. Man, what a tragedy that is. And that makes it impossible, that lack of forgiveness, to journey forward in faith together. Not only is it wrong, biblically wrong, but it makes it impossible to journey forward together.
Unforgiveness really leads to a lot of, I think, a buildup of bitterness and resentment. And it just grows and grows, and it kind of holds you captive and kind of keeps you, I feel like, almost like frozen in place, where it starts to really, even though maybe you might not notice it right away, it really does start to affect the growth of your relationships with the people that are closest to you, and one being your spouse, but really just your whole family. And so lack of forgiveness and having that in your life, although it might be a small thing, or you think it's a small thing, it's really not. And it just grows and grows into something that it really, if you don't let that go, and you allow that bitterness and resentment to grow, it will really affect your relationships and will keep you from being who you're supposed to be in those.
That's right. And I would say, and I'm sure there are other things to be said here. There's a pile of books on marriage and how to do this, but these are some thoughts. But I think the last thing I would say on this is, don't be too hard on yourself if you haven't done it right, or if you fall down along the way. Extend grace to others, extend grace to your relationship. And man, that's so important too. I cannot tell you the number of people, individuals and couples that I know personally over the years who are no longer in church. They're no longer trying to even live a journey of faith or live a life of faith or have a relationship with God because something they consider catastrophic came into their lives. They made a bad decision. A bad decision was made on top of them. And because of that, they've just kind of thrown their hands up in the air and said, forget it. That's not how journeys work. Journeys have twists and turns and ups and downs and good and bad. And that's just part of it. Extend grace to yourself as well. And really it's leaning into God who extends grace to us. That's why it's a journey of faith. It's looking to Him, the author and finisher of our faith, and trusting that He can carry us forward. So if you fall down, get back up. Now, if one of you falls down, it falls down hard, it's going to take some work to get back up and some reconciliation between the two of you. But sometimes families fall down together. Sometimes couples fall down together, just get tired and want to quit. Extend grace to yourself and keep moving forward, and trust that God will give you everything you need to really do that. It's having other people in your lives, not just a spouse and not just kids, but other people in your lives along the journey of faith really makes it rewarding. It makes it doable sometimes. It makes it great at other times. It can be wonderful, but it can also be very, very difficult. You must look at the journey, the path, the road in front of you as not about you. It's about us, and we're going to figure out how to move forward together. If you do that, again, it can be a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that foundation comes in. If you have that common foundation with each other, then it will help so much. And if you just remember that's where it starts, and that's what you have in common.
Right.
And it's you together, fighting together.
And
if you remember that, your
right.
foundation is that you have the common foundation of faith in Jesus Christ, and that is what you have together. And so when you fall down, or when you make mistakes, or when you forget that, why you're doing all of this, and just remembering that you have that common foundation, and that's what's gonna make all the difference.
That's right. So it's the foundation of faith. It's being a Christian first. I'm going to grow in my relationship with God. It's finding areas of service individually, as we're called to do by God. It's finding areas of service together. We're going to decide how we can serve together. It's deciding together prayerfully how to use the resources, all of the resources that God gives to you, in a way that will please Him and that really knits your heart together. It's spending time in prayer and Bible study together. It's being gracious, it's being forgiving, and it's trusting God to carry us forward. If we'll do that, no one's perfect. In fact, we're imperfect.
Yeah.
But it can be great as well. And I hope that that's a help to you. If you have questions on that or comments, let us know. Again, we'd love to come back and address some of those. But this is just a starting point. But I hope that you'll take it seriously. Man, so many people say it's just too hard. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know what it means. It doesn't mean a whole lot. It means be a Christian, trust God, and let God carry you forward. And He certainly will do that. Again, thank you for watching and listening. If we can do anything for you, please let us know. Talk to you next time.